Welcome, students. Today we're going to talk about the Cartesian plane and have an introduction to graphing. Now, earlier we looked at equations and inequalities with one variable, and we could graph those solutions on the number line. We only had one variable, which was generally x, and so we needed to have one number line that corresponded to x. Today we're going to look at relationships between two variables, usually x and y, and because there are two variables, we're going to need two number lines, and that's going to give us something that is two-dimensional. You have almost certainly seen this before. I'm going to do a quick sketch, and it is really difficult to do a nice sketch on an iPad. And so here we go. I'm going to label this x and this y. This is something you've probably seen before. It has multiple names, and these names generally mean the same thing. Sometimes this is called a rectangular coordinate system. Many books refer to it that way. It also is known as the Cartesian plane, named after the mathematician Descartes, who discovered it, and it's also called the XY plane. I will often call it the XY plane out of laziness because that's the fewest syllables. So here we have an x-axis and a y-axis. These are both effectively number lines, but we call them axes. So we have the x and y-axis. And they are number lines, so we will put tick marks on them. Let's see, 2, 4, 6. -2, -4, -6. And then the same with y. With y, up is the positive direction, and down is the negative direction. All right. We've seen this before, or you've seen this before in other classes, I'm certain. We've got the x-axis. It's a number line that is horizontal. The y-axis, it's a number line that's vertical. They intersect at the point that's 0 on each of them. And these two axes divide the plane into 4 different areas. We call them quadrants. We normally don't label the quadrants, but I'm going to do it just once so we can talk about which is which. This is quadrant 1, and we usually use Roman numerals. I don't know why. If anybody can find out, do some internet research, tell me. Quadrant 2 is in the upper left. Quadrant 3 down there, and quadrant 4 over here. We don't usually write in those labels, but we sometimes talk about what's going on in a graph. Maybe something interesting is happening down here, so we can say, oh, in quadrant 4 we have this, intersection going on, or something like that. So anyways, those are the quadrants, and we do have a special name for the point where the two axes intersect. Starts with the letter O. It is the origin. All right. Now, anytime we have a point on the plane, for example, this point right here, we can refer to it by its coordinates. And I can write that down here. Each point has an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. Now, the x-coordinate tells us where it is along the x-axis, how far to the right or how far to the left it is. So here, the x-coordinate is 4 because it's the same distance to the right as 4 is from the y-axis. So the x-coordinate is 4. We put the x-coordinate first. The y-coordinate comes second. Now, how high is this? Well, if we look to the corresponding place on the y-axis, we're up 2. We go up 2 units. So the y-coordinate is 2. So that point has the coordinates 4, 2. We can do this for any point on the plane. We can look at this point right here. All right? What are the coordinates of this point? Well, the x-coordinate is saying where we are on the x-axis. So if we look down there, that's at -1. So the x-coordinate is -1. And then the y-coordinate saying how high are we along the y-axis? Well, we're at 5. So we've got -1, 5. Those are the coordinates of that point. Now, just like each point has x and y coordinates, each pair of x and y coordinates corresponds to a point. If I asked you to take the point -6, -3 and graph it, that would correspond to a point somewhere on the xy plane. And it's not that difficult to figure out where it is. It has an x-coordinate of -6, so we need to move to -6 to the left 6 on the x-axis. And then the y-coordinate's -3. That means we need from there to go down 3 points. And so we're going to end up somewhere around there. -6, -3. The x-coordinate is -6, so we go to the left 6. The y-coordinate is -3, so we go down 3. All right. I want you to think now of the coordinates for a point that would go in the 4th quadrant. Now, because I've made this video well before you're watching it, I can't read your mind, so I'm not going to be able to guess the point that you picked, but I am going to pick my own point. Let's look at 5, -2. So long as you picked a positive x-coordinate and a negative y-coordinate, that's going to be in the 4th quadrant. We've got a positive 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the x-coordinate, and a -2, 1, 2 down for the y-coordinate, and there we are. So every point has a corresponding pair of coordinates. Every pair of coordinates has a corresponding point. There are other points. We've done one in each quadrant. There are points that aren't in any quadrants. For example, the point 2, 0 is on the x-axis. The point -0, -6 is on the y-axis. That's to the left or right 0. We don't move horizontally. And then -6 means we go down 6. And then lastly, the origin has coordinates 0, 0. So our points can be in any of the 4 quadrants. They can be along the x-axis or the y-axis. They can even be the origin. All of these points correspond to coordinates, and all of these pairs of coordinates correspond to points. All right. Hopefully you are comfortable with the XY plane. If you click on the link below, there are some videos for plotting points, so you can get some practice with that. And then in the next video in this class, we are going to look at graphing using tables of values. So we're going to get more practice with this, but instead of just looking at individual points, we're going to end up with lines.